Hey everyone, welcome to the 2013 Intramural Volleyball Captains video. My name is Tommy Shore. I'm the Director of Intramural Sports here at the University of Iowa. This quick video is going to give you an oversight of our intramural sports rules and regulations, as well as intramural volleyball rules that you need to know heading into the intramural volleyball season and to complete the Captain's Quiz here when you decide to take that. So first thing we want to talk to you about is our eCheckup to Go program. eCheckup to Go is an online confidential alcohol assessment. And basically what we have to offer you is that if 75% of your team's final roster goes online and completes this online confidential alcohol assessment, your team will be refunded your registration fee for intramural volleyball. That refund will be issued at the end of the season and will be issued to the team captain's U-bill. So make sure 75% of your team's final roster completes that, and after our championship night of intramural volleyball, we will go through and process refunds for that. So to find out more information on that, you can check out imleagues.com, or there's more information available on our intramural sports website through recreational services. So I want to introduce you to some of our staff, our two graduate assistants, Matt McCarthy and Drew Dunley. They are administrators for all of our sports here in the intramural sports program. Drew is in charge of volleyball this year, so you'll be hearing a lot from him in regards to schedules, reschedules, and things like that when playoffs are coming up, stuff like that. So you will get to know Drew a little bit. And our intramural sports supervisor staff, we have 9 student supervisors that help us out on a nightly basis, supervising the events at the game site. You may have already talked to some or corresponded with some out at flag football or other sports that we have already had this semester, but they will be out there in their black polos and name tags helping get you signed in, answering your questions, things like that. So if you ever have any questions about intramural sports, feel free to ask one of them. imleagues.com is our main website for intramural sports. This is where you have traveled to find this video and get this far in the volleyball registration process. On this website, we post announcements not only for the entire program, but for this individual sports as well. Once you get your team started, you pass the Captain's Quiz, get your team named, and all that stuff, you can start to add players to your roster through this website. When registration is complete, you can find your schedules on this website. Once we have published those, and you'll get an email from Drew, you can go online to look at those schedules. If you're interested in upcoming sports and getting more information about those sports or events, you can find that on imleagues.com by going to that sport or event homepage, going to the left side of the screen and clicking on the handbooks and manuals link. That will get you to our information form for that sport. Once it is published, we get it posted on the website right away, so you can take a look at that. And then once we get going with the intramural volleyball season, we'll have updated standings and brackets after each night of gameplay. We'll update those the following morning in the office. So some responsibilities we want to talk to you as team captain about, and make sure that you know your responsibilities and these policies and things like that. The first one is who can play on your intramural volleyball team and who can play in this program. So University of Iowa students, faculty, and staff are eligible to participate in University of Iowa intramural sports, as well as spouses or legally married partners of anyone that's a University of Iowa student, faculty, or staff member. So the restriction with spouses is they must play on the same team as their originally eligible spouse. So my wife is eligible to play because I'm a staff member of the university, but she is only eligible to play on the same team as me in intramural volleyball. And eligible participants are only eligible to play on one men's or women's team and one co-rec team. So you cannot play on, if you're male, you cannot play on 2 men's teams, female cannot play on 2 women's teams, and nobody can play on 2 co-rec teams. If you do enter a game for a second team or sign in with the intent to play for a second team, you will be declared ineligible for the rest of the intramural volleyball season. So make sure that doesn't happen. Make sure your teammates know that rule and do not plan on playing on more than one team in each of those leagues. And if your team has any ineligible players that we catch playing on more than one team or ineligible for any other reason, your team will forfeit any games in which that person participated. So make sure as team captain that's not happening, and we won't have to deal with that situation. In regards to intercollegiate and sport club athletes, intercollegiate Division I volleyball players are not allowed to participate in intramural volleyball, so you cannot get an Iowa Hawkeye volleyball player to play on your team. Former Iowa Hawkeye volleyball players or other former Division I volleyball athletes must sit out 2 full semesters before they're eligible to participate in intramural volleyball. So anyone that's on a Division I roster this fall 2013, must sit out spring 2014 and fall 2014 from Division I action, and will regain intramural eligibility in volleyball beginning with the spring 2015 semester. So that's intercollegiate athletes. In regards to sport club athletes and or coaches, a team can only have 2 sport club players or coaches on the team roster. So that's any combination: 2 players, no coaches; 2 coaches, no players. 2 is the maximum, players or coaches. If that happens and you have more than 2 on your roster, we will have to go back and deal with ineligible player issues, stuff like that. We don't want to deal with it, so make sure you know those policies and are following those guidelines. Make sure your teammates are eligible. We talked about that a little bit, and we'll continue to talk about it more as we go through, but it's your responsibility to make sure your teammates are eligible and to make sure those teammates know the rules and regulations of our program and of intramural volleyball. It is not an excuse for violating a policy of our program that you didn't know the rule. That's not going to fly. You need to know the rules of our program, and if we need to contact your team for any reason, you as team captain will be our contact that we reach out to and get a hold of from the office. So to start building your roster, and if you need to add players at any point, a couple people have a test one night and you need to get some more players on there. To be eligible to play, you can add players to your team roster until 2 p.m. the day of the game for a weekday game, or 7 a.m. the day of the game for a Sunday game. So for whatever reason you have some people that have a conflict, you need to get more players added. As long as they haven't played on another men's team or women's team or another co-rec team, you can do that, making sure you meet those deadlines for them to be able to play in the game that evening. And you can continue this process through the quarterfinal round of the playoffs if you make the playoffs and continue. You can follow this process to continue to add players as needed until that quarterfinal round, the roster deadline, the day of your team's quarterfinal game. After that, rosters are frozen for the remainder of the season, the semis, and the championship if you are to advance. So make sure, as team captain, you're checking imleagues.com to make sure your players are ineligible. If the player is not eligible or suspended for whatever reason, there will be a line through that person's name, and that lets you as team captain know, and that lets our staff know that that player is ineligible. We have had situations where somebody drops all their classes and is no longer a student, or was eligible because he or she was a staff member, but then takes another job outside of the university and is no longer on staff with the university. So make sure you're keeping track of your players and making sure they're eligible so we don't have any violations of our policies. If you need to drop somebody from your roster, you can do that. Just complete a player drop request form by 2 p.m. The day of a game for a weekday game, or 7 a.m. for a weekend game. You can submit that player drop request form via email. You can scan and email it to our staff, or you can drop it in the drop box outside E216 Fieldhouse. If that player is eligible to be dropped, meaning he or she has not already played in a game for or signed in a game for your team, we will go ahead and drop that person off your roster and get that taken care of. So every participant is required to check in with the university ID card prior to each match. So when you arrive to the field house, you have to have your UID to get in anyway. So make sure you take it with you then to the North Gym to check in for your intramural volleyball game. You'll check in with the supervisor there on duty. Again, those folks we talked about in their black polos and name tags. Each player will check in with that person using his or her university ID. If you do not bring your ID, you cannot play. There are no exceptions to this, so make sure you are reminding your teammates to bring their university IDs for every game so that they can sign in to play and you won't have to play the match without them. If someone tries to misuse a university ID, then we will have to handle that situation. Any person caught misusing an ID will be suspended from our program. We'll have to have meetings about that incident, what happened. That meeting will require your attendance as team captain and the people involved with the misuse of ID, so the person whose ID it was, the person who tried to use it, all that stuff. It's a hassle. We don't want to deal with it, so make sure your teammates aren't doing that. If it does happen, we'll deal with it, and we'll pass that along to the Dean of Students office, as that is a violation of the University of Iowa Student Code of Conduct. Speaking of conduct, we have some expectations of our participants in our intramural program. The first is fighting. If anybody gets into a fight, obviously we're not going to tolerate that. Anybody that gets into a fight will be suspended for at least 1 calendar year from all recreational services activities, intramural, sport clubs, aquatics, fitness classes, all that stuff. That person will be done. So make sure your teammates aren't fighting. We'll pass those incidents as well along to the Dean of Students office for further university disciplinary action, as we don't want our students acting that way. Each game you play, our intramural officials will rate you on our sportsmanship scale of 4 being good, 1 being bad, and your sportsmanship includes the way you interact with the officials, the other teams, if you have fans there to watch your team's game, the way they're behaving, stuff like that all contributes to your sportsmanship. This is before, during, and after the game, so make sure you're aware of that. New this year, we flipped the scale. It used to be 1 was good, 4 was bad. Now we're the other way around to mirror a grade point average. So a 4.0 sportsmanship point average is good, and a 1.0 is bad. So if you get a 2 or a 1, you will be notified. At 2, you'll get a warning email letting you know you got a below average sportsmanship rating. You need to do better in your next game. If you get a 1, we've got a problem. We'll have you as the team captain come in and talk to us. We'll need you to set up a meeting. You will be ineligible to play until you do that, and that must be done before your team's next game. So make sure that your team is acting like adults out there. If you have a rating average throughout the season of below 2.5, you will be ineligible for the playoffs. And if it drops below 2.5 at any time in the playoffs, you will be immediately dropped from the bracket, regardless of how many games you won or anything else. So sportsmanship is a priority of our program. If we have problem players out there, we will eject them, and we will not deal with misbehavior out there. So any ejected players are required to have a meeting with the intramural staff. That'll be myself and one of the GAs. And you as the team captain are required to attend that meeting too. So again, make sure your players are acting like adults out there. The team captain will be ineligible to participate until the time of the meeting, and the ejected player will be ineligible to participate until the time of the meeting and at least 1 game after. We will decide on the length of the suspension after we hold the meeting, but there will be at least a 1 game additional suspension for that ejected participant. Obviously, we don't want to deal with those things. Takes your time, takes our time, and we want people acting like adults out there. So make sure you're taking care of that, and that's not happening. Our games are officiated by intramural officials. They are students at the University of Iowa, just like most of you are. They are your peers, so treat them with respect. Some may be certified in volleyball by the National Federation of High Schools, some may not, but they will all get trained prior to the season by the intramural sports staff, and we will continue working with them and teaching them and developing them throughout the season. So we expect you to treat the officials with the same respect that you expect to be treated with. So if you hit a serve into the net or a ball out of bounds or something, our officials aren't going to yell at you and tell you how bad you are and you can't believe that you missed that shot. Same vice versa. You need to treat our officials with respect. Regardless of whether or not you agree with their decisions, you need to treat them with respect. If you have major concerns, come talk to the supervisor on site in a professional manner. Email me or the graduate assistants. There are professional and mature ways to deal with that situation, to talk about some feedback we can give our officials. Yelling at them during the game, telling them how bad they are, that does not qualify as mature and professional and will not be tolerated. So make sure you are acting like adults out there and respecting our officials. We schedule these games and put in all this work to get everybody games that registers, so we want these games to happen. If your team does not show up within 10 minutes of the scheduled scheduled game time, your team will be declared to have forfeit that game, and you as team captain will be assessed a forfeit fine of $25, which is half the registration fee. That will be assessed to your U-bill, and you will have a chance to earn a refund of that forfeit fine. If your team forfeits, we'll call you the next day, ask you if you want to stay in the league. If you say yes and you play all the remainder of your games, meaning no more forfeits, no more defaults, you will be refunded your forfeit fine at the end of the season. If it's your last regular season game and you don't have it and you don't make the playoffs, or if it's your last playoff game or you forfeit in the playoffs, you will not have an opportunity to receive a refund of that forfeit fine. If you know your team's going to forfeit, you know everybody has a conflict one week and you play on Sundays, everybody's going out of town, not going to make it back in time, you can default if you can't get enough players added to your roster and make that game. So we know things happen. That's why we give you a chance to default the first time. There's no fine. Thank you for letting us know. We understand things come up. We'll get the other team contacted. We'll get the officials contacted and know that they won't have to show up for that time slot and just be sitting there with no game going on. The second time it happens, now we're noticing a trend that we don't want to deal with. So there will be a fine of 25% of the registration fee. If it happens the third time, we'll fine you 50% because now you're wasting all of our time, and we want to discourage games not happening. The reason we schedule these is for these games to be played. So you'll be fined 50% of that registration cost on top of the 25% you already incurred, and there's no chance for a refund on that. But again, the first time's free. If you need to default, contact our office. You can email Drew Dunley, Graduate Assistant, at andrew-dunley@uiowa.edu, or you can call the Intramural Sports Office at 319-335-9292. Now I'm going to pass it over to Intramural Sports Graduate Assistant Drew Dunley to take you through the rest of the video.
Thank you, Tommy. As Tommy said, I am Drew Dunley, first-year graduate assistant for Intramural Sports here at the University of Iowa. I'm going to take you through some of the volleyball basics and volleyball rules. So team schedules will come out on Wednesday, October 9th. So be looking for that, and the matches will start on Sunday, October 13th. So make sure you as the captain let your players know what day and what time you're going to be playing so you don't have any forfeits or defaults to start the year off. League standings and playoffs will be posted on Intramural bulletin boards as well as imleagues.com. And the top 2 teams from each division will make the playoffs. So if you're interested in seeing where you stand, or if you're in playoff contention, just go ahead and look at those standings. Protests: if you feel that there was a misinterpretation or misapplication of a rule, you can file a protest. So immediately stop the game and go find the intramural supervisor and bring it up with them. State your case. If the intramural supervisor still believes that the official made the correct call, and you still believe that it was not the correct call, you disagree with the supervisor, you can go ahead and make a written protest along with $5 that can be submitted to the intramural office by no later than noon the next day, and there will be a ruling regarding that ruling. Games are going to be played in the Fieldhouse North Gym, and per intramural rules for every sport, alcohol and tobacco are not permitted. And you must bring your UI ID to play. Like Tommy said, that's the rule. If you don't have your UI ID, you will not be allowed to play. So make sure you bring that, because you don't want to have to go all the way back and grab it, because you have to use it to get into the field house anyways. All teams must have 4 players to start a match. In co-rec, you must have 2 men and 2 women in order to begin. Teams may play with 4, 5, or 6 players. If you are playing with 4, 5, or 6, you must designate 2 of those players to be back row players, and one of those back row players must be the last person that served for your team. So make sure you're following that rule. And in order to play, you must be wearing athletic shoes. So please don't show up in sandals, don't show up in boots, just make sure you're wearing sneakers, and you'll be allowed to play. Also, we're stressing this year, no jewelry allowed at all unless it is a medical alert bracelet or necklace. So if you show up with a watch, you show up with earrings, you're going to have to take those off. So now I'm going to go over some specific volleyball rules. Matches are going to be best 2 out of 3 sets. The first 2 sets are going to be played to 25 with a cap at 30. So you could win the first 2 sets by a score of 30-29 if you were tied at 29 all. The third set, if necessary, is going to be played to 15 with a cap at 20, so you could win 20-19. There will be a coin toss prior to every match beginning. The team that wins that coin toss is going to serve the first and third set if the third set is necessary, and they will also choose what side they want to begin play on. The team that loses that coin toss will serve the second set beginning. And teams are going to switch sides after the conclusion of the first and second sets, and in the third set, the first team to win 8 points. Once the team wins 8 points, then you're going to switch sides and continue play in the third set from there. Serves can be overhand or underhand, except in the co-rec recreational league. All serves in the co-rec recreational league must be underhand. And a serve ball that hits the net and passes over is a live ball, so make sure that you are playing that ball. It's not tennis where if it hits, you replay that serve. If it hits and goes over, you will play that point out, so make sure that you are playing it out. And it is illegal to block or spike a serve, so if someone lobs a serve over and you feel like spiking it, that is not allowed. Make sure you let it come across the net and you play it from there. Substitutions must be made in the center back position, and if anyone that substitutes in must make one complete rotation before substituting out. And substitutes are only allowed to enter the game while your team is serving. So you must win that last point and be on serve in order for that person to substitute into the center back position. Legal contact of the ball is any part of your body. So if you're trying to get to the ball and you need to use your leg, or you need to use your foot or your head, then that is fine. So it's any part of your body can be used to contact that ball. However, touching the net is strictly illegal, even if it is an accident. So if you're going up to the net and you slip and you fall and you have to grab that net, the point will be given to the other team. Or if you accidentally contact that net, spiking the ball or blocking it, the point will be given to the other team. So make sure we're not touching that net throughout the entire game. If you are interested in officiating intramural volleyball, we will have a training on Tuesday, October 8th at 7 p.m. in the north gym of the field house. So anyone that's interested must attend this meeting. If you miss it, I'm sorry, you cannot referee intramural volleyball. So make sure that you are going to be there. If you come a little bit early and get acquainted with the staff and fill out some paperwork. We're going to have some upcoming meetings as well. We're going to have the free agent meeting, which is going to be on Tuesday, October 8th at 2 p.m. So if you want to play intramural volleyball and you don't have enough people on your team, or if you're a player looking to get some other players, come to this meeting and you will meet other people interested in playing intramural volleyball, and you guys can coordinate and sign up for a team. Also, we're going to have a waitlist meeting, which is Wednesday, October 9th at 2 p.m. in room 201 of the field house. And this allows waitlist teams to pick a division. So if you wanted to play intramural volleyball, but all the divisions were filled for the league that you wanted to play in, come to this meeting and we'll do our best to get you into a division at this waitlist meeting. Also this year, like last year and some previous years, we're doing the Buffalo Wild Wings Intramural Sports Points Championship. And points are awarded to each team that participates in every sport. So teams that win first place are going to get a few more points than teams that win second place, so on down the line, third, fourth, fifth. And so you must keep the same team name throughout the entire year, and you can accumulate points under that team name. So if you use a team name for volleyball, make sure you're using that same team name for if you play intramural basketball or intramural tennis. Make sure you're using that same team name so you can accumulate those points. And also, if you do win in the men's, women's, fraternity, sorority, or co-rec divisions, you will get a championship trophy, a $100 Buffalo Wild Wings gift card, as well as a Buffalo Wild Wings champion t-shirt. So those three are incentives to use your same team name and play as many intramural sports as you can throughout the entire season. Back again this year is the Friday night series. The fall schedule includes kickball, which was just done, bowling and mini golf, team handball and canoe battleship, and then in the spring we have wiffle ball, inner tube water polo, and late night softball. So if you're looking for something to do on a Friday night, make sure you sign up for those. Registration requirements including passing the captain's quiz and also meeting the minimum player requirement. And new this year, all players must pass the player quiz prior to being able to join a team. You must also pay your registration fee and select the time in which you want to play, and all of this must be done by 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday, October 8th. So make sure you coordinate with your players and get everything ready to go, and make sure you pay that fee. If you have any questions about this video, contact the Intramural Sports staff at 319-335-9292 or email us at intramural-sports@uiowa.edu. We look forward to seeing all of you out at volleyball this year, and good luck.